Okay, we should be live. Let's see here. Let me know in the chat how everything looks, sounds. Looks good to me, I think. Like I said last week, YouTube is changing some of the behind the scenes setup for all of these lives. So it's a bit difficult for me to figure out how to set these up. But I am getting the hang of it. And I think it should be much easier next time. It seems like they've settled on an interface in the back end. Great. Yeah, let me know how it sounds, and please hit the like button. It really helps fuel the algorithm. And we should have a great stream tonight. We are not doing a commentary, really, even though we're going to discuss a show called Pluribus that I have been watching. I watched the first season. It just ended recently. I mentioned it last week that we were going to be discussing it, so there will be spoilers in this a little bit. I'm going to try not to spoil the show. We're going to kind of discuss the concept of the show. And honestly, I will not include spoilers that will ruin the show for you. So everything that I talk about tonight should be, understood within the first, 2 or 3 episodes of the show. So maybe even the first episode. So I'm not going to include any major spoilers, but just know if I do include some spoilers, I apologize, but I won't spoil the show. That's what I will say. It is a great show. I highly recommend watching it. It's called Pluribus, and we will look up what that means because that is built into the Pluribus, the motto of the United States. Pluribus means many, and E pluribus unum means from many one, I believe. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. That's what it means. Out of many, one. And so tonight, what I want to talk about is the boundaries of being, and because we're gonna talk about sentient assemblies and the different types of sentient assemblies, and what differentiates them, and how that relates to sentient singularity theory. So, as we discuss all the time on here, you are a sentient singularity, but you are also a sentient assembly, or your body is a sentient assembly. You are not a sentient assembly. Your body is a sentient assembly. You are some one, singularity, a sentient being, a sentient someone, which is a sentient singularity. And then your body, on a fundamental level, it is a sentient assembly. It is an assembly of sentient beings, of other sentient singularities, which are cells. And even below that, according to sentient singularity theory, it's predicted that molecules and atoms and hadrons are also sentient, at least some of them. So, but cells are also predicted to be sentient singularities. And so we're going to talk about what is a sentient singularity, what is a pseudo-singularity. It's a lot of tongue twisters tonight. What is a hive mind, essentially, and what is a eusocial organism or a eusocial society, and how it all relates to naked mole rats and the future of humanity. So this sounds like a huge breadth of different topics, but it's actually very, very related. They're all very interrelated. So, but for starters, you are a sentient your body is a sentient assembly. You are a sentient singularity. So your body is an assembly of other sentient singularities, namely cells. We'll just say for now, even though it probably goes further down. So this is why the phrase "e pluribus unum," out of many one, is very relevant. You are out of many one, essentially. But I would say it's not exactly that simple, because you are someone and your body is an assembly of multiplicity of sentient singularities or sentient beings. So you are not composed of a multiplicity of sentient singularities, or you are not a sentient assembly, but your body is. Okay? It's different. You have a body, but you are not a body. You are, when you are embodied, you are your body is part of you, but it is not you. It's an extension of you, but it is not the source of you. So that's important to recognize, even though that seems like very specific in the language that I'm choosing. It's for a reason. But if you are watching, please let me know if how the sound is, and please hit the like button just so that I know how the stream is going. So also, if you have any questions, please comment them in the live chat, and I will address it. I said last week I will be better about addressing live chat, and I'm really going to try and do that. So the show Pluribus, I can't show any clips of it, not even the trailer. I will get dinged. And I don't really care about monetization, but I thought I had monetization turned off on here, but then somebody super chatted me $10 last week, which I really appreciate. And I didn't think that they could do that if the monetization was turned off. I turn it off when I first do a stream because I don't want people getting ads during a live stream that are interrupting the live stream. If it's like a mid-roll ad, I have no idea what pops up. I probably should get a better handle on that, but I do accept super chats. But liking the video is definitely the best way to support, and subscribing. So Pluribus, this is the TV show Pluribus, is an American post-apocalyptic science fiction television series on Apple TV. And so I don't want to give too many spoilers by showing something, so I'll just read it here. But basically, there is this transmission that is intercepted, I guess. I guess there's a transmission that humans pick up on from outer space, that comes from outer space, and they realize that the transmission has a code in it, and this code pertains to or represents DNA. And so they take the code and they physicalize it, I guess you could say, and they compute it, as Lee Cronin would say, and they create this code in the medium of DNA, and then it seems like they put it into mice, and a mouse bites one of the workers in the lab, and then it infects them with this basically alien virus that we created from a signal that was intercepted from outer space. And so it infects them, and it turns out that this virus links your mind. So anyone who gets this virus gets merged into a hive mind, essentially. And so this is all figured out within the first 30 minutes of the show, maybe less, 20 minutes, 10 minutes of the show. So not, I guess, spoiling anything here. But one thing I really like about this show is it's not like it just leaves this huge mystery that you don't even know whether or not the writers even know the answer to these giant questions, and which is, awful if that's the case. But that's not the case in this show. Lost kind of felt like that in some ways towards the end. It's just people didn't know, even the writers didn't seem to know the answers to certain questions. They just kind of leaned on the mystery of it. But this show definitely has questions. It presents questions. It answers them very quickly, but it also, has a story, and you're trying to the entire world basically gets infected with this virus and becomes a hive mind, except for a small group of about like 12 or 13 people. And the show follows them essentially, and their struggle with this new world where everyone in the entire world is basically merged into one giant hive mind. And it presents a lot of questions about what does it mean to be someone? And what does it mean to be a specific individual? What does it mean to be a singular individual? What does it mean to be a group versus a singular, being, and a sentient assembly versus a sentient singularity? And so these are the questions that are basically posed by the show that are relevant to this. And it does a great job. It is a great show. I will say the first episode is really creepy. It's like horror almost, but it's not like gory or anything. There isn't any crazy nudity. The show is really tame, which is good. It's not like Game of Thrones or anything like that. It's not very gory. Doesn't have a lot of unnecessary sex scenes or anything. I don't think it has any sex scenes in the first season, at least. And so that's definitely a positive in my book. So often that stuff is not necessary, but it definitely does. This show definitely does a great job. So I'd highly recommend watching it. But what's one of the interesting things in this is that when you get absorbed into this assembly, everyone shares thoughts, and not just thoughts, but also feelings. And these are two different things. Feelings and thoughts are not the same. You can think, you do feel. You cannot help but feel. That's what makes you a sentient being. That's what makes you someone instead of just something, is that you feel. Sentient singularity or sentient being, a being feels. A thing does not. And so, but they also share thoughts, and so we're going to talk about what this kind of, how this is relevant to the future of humanity, and we're also going to talk about ants and bees and wasps and naked mole rats, which are called, they're organisms that are eusocial, it's called, which is an organism, type of organism that has like a caste system to it's got a colony that has a caste system associated with it. A queen ant and drones and workers and soldiers. Same thing with bees. There's really two mammals that have, depending on how you count, that are eusocial. One of them is the naked mole rat, and the other one is the human being, I would say. And they are also the only two naturally naked mammals in the world, which is not a meaningless coincidence, and we'll talk about that a bit on here. So, but in sentient singularity theory, a sentient singularity is someone. Okay, you are a sentient singularity. We assume your dog is, and your wife and your kid and everyone that you know. I also assume that each cell that is in your body is also a sentient singularity. A bird is a sentient singularity. It's also a fish, anyone that is someone, which means that anyone that feels, any being that feels, which is all beings in sentient singularity theory. That's a being feels, and a thing, it does not. Depending on how you're gonna define being, you could say a being is a thing that feels, or you could say beings feel and things don't. But it just depends on how you choose to define it. Those are your only two options, though. You can't choose a different option. But no matter what, a being feels. That's the main point. A being is someone. It's not something. You are not something. You are someone. Your body is something, but you are not something. You, the you part of that, the I part of the I of me, and the you of you is someone, not something. It's not something. It's someone, and it's the part of it's the being. You are a being, a human being. But it says here. Let me see if there's anything else here to say about the show that I can state that doesn't give anything away. But yeah, probably not. That's listed on Wikipedia. But there's parts in the show that are very interesting because let me look at the chat. Sound is good. Good. Yeah, it's intercepted by SETI. The signal in Pluribus is intercepted by SETI. Howdy y'all. How's it going? Yanni 6177. So what's really interesting about this is it got me even thinking about certain things about feeling and about the nature of feeling itself. Because in the show, and this isn't a spoiler, but it's just an aspect of these people that after they get absorbed into this hive mind, which we're not really sure if it is someone or if it is kind of just like a machine, and every person in it is just a part of the machine. It's tough to kind of parse out, I guess, because I don't think that the metaphysics of the writers are probably as refined as mine when it comes to this, but also because that's part of the question of the show is that has not been answered is, do these people still exist? Or is it just their bodies and their memories, but they are not themselves anymore? Because they refer to themselves as we. They say we, like they're basically their whole obsession, these people that have become this hive mind, is to please the last bit of people that and win over basically the last bit of few people that have not been absorbed, that are immune to this alien virus, and that can be absorbed, but it in a way that requires their consent, essentially. And so it's trying to win them over. I say it, but I don't really know exactly the right way to speak about it yet. But they will say we. Every single one of them says we. And what's interesting is once you get absorbed, there's no speaking anymore. They all communicate or are aware. I don't even know if communicate is the right word, but they are all aware of what's going on in each other's heads and or in each other's minds, and they don't need to speak to each other in order to coordinate. And they all have access to all the knowledge and wisdom, the collective knowledge and wisdom of everyone that exists on Earth. I wouldn't even say wisdom, because there is like there is a naiveness or naivete. I don't know the best way to pronounce that or the best term to use, but to the organism, which is a question, really kind of makes you question: is this hive mind someone specifically, or is it just kind of a machine with a bunch of individuals as its parts? Because it seems to have lost the wisdom of humanity, but it keeps the experience and the knowledge of the collective knowledge and experience of humanity. So they will be there's, if you ask it for one of these people who are part of the assembly for a grenade or atom bomb, they will give it to you. That's not a spoiler, but It does happen in the show. They basically will give you anything that you want, but they don't need to speak to each other in order to communicate. They just need to speak to the people that are not absorbed into the assembly, and who have not been accumulated, I guess you could say. So, but not only that implies that they have shared thoughts, but there's also an implication of shared feeling in this, and because if the people in this assembly, if let's say one of them gets really upset while they're talking to one of the people who has not been absorbed, or co-opted, or I guess just co-opted, then if they get too upset, basically they get emotionally overloaded and kind of spaz out like having a seizure. And not only does this happen to them, whenever it happens to one of them, it happens to all of them, the entire world at once. Billions of people just start basically seizing because of emotional overload. And I thought about that, and I was like, that's kind of just an odd thing to include as part of the show. It makes sense with the show, it seems to. It's not out of place, but at first I was like, I asked myself, does that actually make sense? And I think that it actually does, which is really, really interesting. I don't know how much thought they gave to that specifically, or if it was just kind of an intuitive plot element. But if you think about when you go to a comedy show and you've got your friends around you and stuff, and a bunch of people in the room, and you go see Dave Chappelle, and he tells a joke, and you think it's funny, and so does everybody else around you. There is an amplification to the humor that everybody feels in the room. It's not just as this that everybody feels that it is individually as funny as they would think it was, or feels as much humor as they would if they were by themselves and heard the joke. It's more. Things are funnier together. Things are sadder together. Things are happier together when you are in a group and you're sharing the feeling with the people around you. That's true of probably every emotion, versus when you watch Dave Chappelle's special by yourself, on Netflix, and you're alone in your apartment or something. It's funny, but you're not going to laugh as hard. And the laughter is not just a social, like a communication. It's not just an intentional communication. It happens in a social environment. It's something that is a byproduct of just the fact that there is that you think this is funny. And if it's funnier, you're going to laugh harder, and you will think it's funnier if you're in a room full of other people that think it's funny. And humor and comedy is probably the best example, but that's true for every emotion. If you watch something sad by yourself, you can be sad about it. But if everybody is sad, or even not just watch something on a show or something like that, but actually, experience a sad moment, it's sadder when you experience it with other people who also think it's sad, and or especially people who you recognize are kind of tied to the moment or the instance that is actually sad, personally. So the more people together, the more emotion seems to be amplified. And if everyone is sharing the same mind, I guess you could say, or sharing the same emotions, let's say that, and they're all immediately get sad or immediately find something funny, and they all are aware of what makes this moment funny, and also what makes the moment sad, or what makes the moment happy, it's going to be amplified. And so if one person, as part of a human hive mind, like in Pluribus, in the context of Pluribus, gets very, very upset, and everybody else in the entire world feels it. The thing is that they're not just feeling their own emotions, they're feeling their emotions and the emotions of everyone else, that are compounded on top of the observation of the initial person's emotions. So, it's like, I'm sad about, if you get sad for due to a certain circumstance, and I am linked to you in the way that they are in Pluribus, I'm not only sad because for the same reasons that you're sad, because I feel that sadness that you feel, but I also feel the sadness for your sadness. And so if that happens again and again and again and again and again, it just will overload you. Same thing with humor. It's like, I'm not just laughing at the fact that this stand-up bit that I'm watching is funny. I'm laughing at how funny that person and that person and that person and that person finds this. And if that just compounds in a social environment, but it really, really would compound completely if you were kind of in a hive mind situation like Pluribus. And so the main character is a woman who is immune to this virus and doesn't get absorbed, and she's asks this being, she asks the Pluribus, we'll call it, questions all the time to try and figure out what's it like, what is its nature essentially, and it seems to have a really hard time saying I. It says, every single person says we, who's part of it. And it's very interesting. And it's also interesting that it is it kind of spreads through a consensual, or not even a consensual, but a somewhat peaceful means, no matter what it is. It's not really spread via violence. It's kind of the opposite. The show is basically the opposite of like 28 Days Later, where, it spreads through violence and it's hyper individualistic. There is no we really, other than the fact that the infected don't seem to attack the infected. Same thing with, I don't know, every zombie movie ever. But so there does seem to be some type of we there, but it's not like Pluribus. And everybody in this, they share the memories. Nobody loses their memories who becomes absorbed into it. So everyone in the world is now the best pilot, the best chef, knows how to do every job, the best surgeon. I mean, any singular person, no matter what their past, is now also the best at any skill that any human has ever had in the world, basically, which is a fascinating thing. It's funny because in the show, like I said, the first episode is kind of horror, but then by the second episode, it kind of becomes humor. It becomes like a comedy a little bit, but it's still serious. But there's a lot of humor in the show, and it's not creepy so much anymore. Any creepiness is kind of very it's not common, but it does. I mean, there are some creepy parts, but the show is not a horror, but it does seem like it is in the first episode. And by the end of the first episode, the very last scene, it becomes kind of funny, and then it kind of keeps that tone for the rest of the show. But it is serious. It's not like it's a joke of a show. It's just there are parts that are funny, and which is different than a show being a comedy. It's not a comedy. What's it listed as here? It just says a science fiction series. I don't know what the genre is. It just says post-apocalyptic science fiction television series, but it's not a horror, and it's not a comedy, but it is scary in the first episode, and it is funny. It does have a lot of funny parts in it after that, which is very odd. That's not a common thing for a show to be like serious, but also have a lot of humor to it, but also have some underlying scary aspect to it, and also the first episode being borderline horror. It is a fascinating show. I'm not spoiling anything, and I definitely recommend watching it for sure. We'll talk more about it as the show goes on. The first season is complete. You can watch the whole thing. It's on Apple TV, and then next season they did renew it. So we'll talk about it more as next season, I guess, plays out, but that will probably be a while. So have you heard about how some folks don't have an inner monologue wondering your thoughts? I don't think that I don't know where. I've never heard that before. I think everybody does to some degree, but it is, I would say, the complexity of it would probably vary from person to person and from being to being, but everyone feels and has a sense of self because they feel. Feeling, when people say, they say, which animals are self-aware? Humans are self-aware, monkeys are self-aware, pass the mirror test. I think that is just the biggest crock of nonsense. I've worked with all kinds of animals in my life, from parrots to fish to snakes to bugs of different kinds, and cats and dogs, and I every single one of them is aware of it's themselves and aware of others. Feeling is self-awareness. You are, when you have an emotion, what you are doing is feeling yourself, the impact that is being had on your sense of self. The whole mirror test and everything like that has nothing to do with being self-aware. It has to do with like being aware of the mirror. That's really what it is about. It's about, are you aware that that is a reflection of you? Not, are you aware that that's you? It has to do with, are you aware of the reflection? And the thing is that most animals will get used to their own reflection, which means that they realize that, which implies that they realize that it's eventually them. Beta fish are an example of this. Siamese fighting fish. If you hold a mirror up to them, they will try and fight themselves, not realizing that it is them. But if you left the mirror there long enough, I bet you they would eventually calm down and not react to seeing themselves in the mirror anymore. Is that because they just get used to they think it's another fish and they get used to it? I don't think so, actually. Reflections exist in nature beyond just human artificial mirrors. There's reflections in water, there's reflections in wet surfaces, there's reflections off of the surface of the water from when looking at it from below. I mean, there are shiny surfaces as well that are natural. A reflection is not something that animals are never encounter in nature. They definitely do. I mean, an animal goes and takes a drink from a puddle. Usually they're not going to growl and bark at themselves if it's like a dog or a wolf or something. They would realize it's just a reflection. So, I mean, your IQ probably has something to do with how long it takes you to realize this, and your experience as well. But the whole idea of, some animals are self-aware and some are not, stupid, or it's just wrong. There's no difference between, an African gray parrot and a guppy in terms of their level of awareness, of self-awareness. There is a difference in their abilities, their cognitive ability, but not in their sentient constraints, I guess. And some info. Delayed chat. Context is lost. Only saying because live chat. Is for live chat or no? I don't know what you're asking. You can post anything in the live chat. Let me know if there's any issues though. It does seem like it's fine on my end. But like I said, please, if you're watching this, you find it interesting, please hit the like button. It really helps. But if there's genuine unified consciousness, it might actually be one being with billions of bodies, like a distributed organism. That's what we're going to talk about in a minute. What is a hive mind? What is like a superorganism? We're going to talk about it. Let me just finish the chat and then we'll get to it. If I comment now about, say, hive mind and it only gets viewed later, like minutes or more, then context is lost. Good luck, not trolling, trying to help. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I get a little lost in my own thoughts. I'm going to try and keep up with the chat though, so I do apologize. And I will, if you comment in the chat, I will try and if it's been a bit, will try and bring up the context in which you stated your comment. I think that's all the comments in the chat for now. So, but like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the live chat. I'm trying to be better about it, and I definitely have been better tonight than I normally am. But we're still working on it. All good. Cheers. Thank you. So in sentient singularity theory, there is a sentient singularity, which is someone, and then there's what's called a pseudo-singularity. And these exist on different levels in what I call the periodicity of sentience, and which we're going to open up right now so I can show you. And this periodicity is right here. I call it the holonic periodicity. This is basically it. And this is the first sentient singularity within the universe, which I think the universe is also a sentient being, but within the universe, this is the first level of sentience, I believe. This is the proposal that sentient singularity theory puts forward. A hadron, which you have protons and neutrons, which are hadrons. Proton is basically versus the neutron is gender manifest on the hadronic scale. Okay, so on the organism scale, we have male and female, but on the hadronic scale, we have proton and neutron. But basically, a proton is a male hadron, and a neutron is like a female hadron. I don't say that as a metaphor. I say that super literally. But when you see here, an atom is an assembly of hadrons. A molecule is an assembly of atoms. A cell is an assembly of molecules. An organism is an assembly of cells. A family is an assembly of organisms. A caste is an assembly of families. And a technological singularity is an assembly of castes. And then it repeats within itself. Here's a kind of a bigger, more expanded version of this model where you can see a hadron is an assembly of quarks, but quarks are not sentient beings. They're like the fingers of the universe, essentially. But a hadron is a sentient being. It's the first level that is sentient. Then an atom is an assembly of hadrons. A molecule is an assembly of atoms. A cell is an assembly of molecules. The colors correspond here. And each one layer here is a layer of sentience that is built on the previous. We are right here in society, in the cosmos, in the evolution of the cosmos. We haven't built this yet, but we will, and then it will create itself, basically like reproduce by creating another one of this entire process, rerunning this entire process, or recreating this entire process within itself. So I call this a cosmological verse, every single one of these. And so the one below here is within the one above, but and it replicates within itself, kind of like a Matryoshka doll. But we are right here in the evolution of the cosmos, or in the evolutionary process of a cosmological verse. We are right here. And as it moves across, as you move across in this model, you have adaptation. So like a fish could be like here, but like a human would be like here. And maybe a chimp is here and a bird is here, something like that. That's kind of a very rough, explanation, but still, going across the periodicity is adaptation, and then going between the periodicity is ascension, essentially, which sounds like new age woo nonsense, but it's not. How do you get an organism, a multicellular organism, from or a sentient singularity that is a multicellular organism, stacked on top of an assembly of sentient singularities that are cells? So how does a human being, that is someone, get embodied on top of an assembly of other sentient singularities, which would be cells? And every time that happens, every time a single-celled organism, a bunch of single-celled organisms turn into coalesce and assemble and unify into a single multicellular organism that is itself a sentient singularity, how does that occur? I call it an ascension versus adaptation. So ascension is from cell to organism, or from molecule to cell, but adaptation would be from cell to cell, or from organism to organism, or from molecule to molecule. That's adaptation. And I have ideas about what happens to make, it's also called replication and stacking. So when cells replicate, they multiply, and then there's stacking, which is addition. It's the adding on top of new information, whereas multiplication or replication is the multiplication of information that's already there. Addition is the adding of information that wasn't previously there, essentially. And so I call that stacking. So replication and stacking. Replication would be adaptation across generations, so from cell to cell, organism to organism. But from multiple cells to single organism, that would be stacking, because you are stacked on top of an assembly. A human being is stacked on top of an assembly of cells. And those cells replicate, but then there is a stacking event that occurs. So you can call it adaptation and ascension, or replication and stacking, which corresponds to multiplication and addition, actually, when it comes to just the growth of information, of quantities. So that's what this is. But this is the simplified just version with there are, on each of these levels, there's sentient singularity, which is like a fish or a human or a dog. And then there's something on this level, And then there's also a pseudo-singularity. A pseudo-singularity looks like a sentient singularity, but it's not. A pseudo-singularity here, for instance, on the kind of cast assembly level here, a sentient singularity would probably be like a tribe, or even like your place in society, your job cast in society. But then where all of you are kind of unified in feeling to some degree. But then a pseudo-singularity would be like a corporation, okay? A corporation is a pseudo-singularity on the kind of, on this level, essentially. But then on this level, we have, here, let's just merge these, and then we'll go here and we'll go here. And so this would be called a corporism. Let's do 72 maybe. Okay. Corporism. And here, this would be a corporation. Okay. I think I spelled those correctly, hopefully. I'm a terrible speller. Let me know in the chat. But so these are pseudo-singularities. But these are sentient singularities. But these are pseudo-singularities over here. On this level, there would be another one here. I'm not exactly sure what it is yet. I'm still working on it. Question mark. But here, a corporation is a pseudo-singularity. It's something that looks like a singular entity. It acts like a singular entity, but it's not. It's not. There is no someone there. And there is no shared feeling or even shared fate necessarily. You can break up a corporation, and you can go after a corporation, and it's not going after the individuals necessarily. Legally, that is the purpose of a corporation. A corporation is to protect individuals, to create a singular entity that is also has the powers, the legal powers, basically of someone, but is also without the accountability, the individual accountability, which I think that shows that there is an issue with that legal standing, is that that a corporation can be counted as an individual. I think that's wrong. I understand why it that is the case, but I don't why that ruling happened, but I don't agree with it. I think it's metaphysically false or incorrect. And if you break a corporation up, though, you can take Apple and or Nokia, and you can split it into two, and now have half the people, split every department in two, have half the people go to one new company and half the people go to another new company, essentially. And you could create Apple and Samsung. Obviously that's not how any of these were created, but there are companies where it starts as one, and then the government comes in and forces them to split apart. And that implies it's not a sentient singularity. There are organisms that are like this as well. And because you can never know whether or not someone else is sentient, it's hard to know. You can't prove whether or not something is a sentient singularity or a pseudo-singularity. But there are signs that there seem to be signs. I can't cut you in half and have that make two. people. It doesn't make two people if you cut someone in half. If I cut your body in half, you will just cease to be embodied, and there's no more human being anymore. It doesn't become two humans. But if I cut a planaria worm in half, it becomes two planaria worms. If I cut it into 200 different pieces, it becomes 200 different planaria worms. If I cut an earthworm in half, it dies. But if I cut a planaria worm in half, it becomes two. That implies that one of them is a sentient singularity, the earthworm, like you and me, and one of them is a pseudo-singularity. It looks like it's a singular entity, but it's not. It's an assembly that is unified to a level that makes it appear from the outside to be a single entity, but it's not. It's a corporation on the cellular level. That's what a planaria worm, I believe, is. There's no proving this, but there is definitely, people cut them into countless pieces, and it makes a bunch of other ones. This is evidence that it is a pseudo-singularity, that organism, the planaria worm, is a pseudo-singularity on the organism level. It is on what I call a corporism. It's a corporation on the cellular level. It's a corporism. And a corporation is a pseudo-singularity on the organism family caste level, I guess you could say, on the human or the multicellular organism / family caste level. I believe that there's probably this is also probably present in molecules. There's probably some molecules that are pseudo-singularities, and I'm not a chemist, so I'm still working on proposing exactly what those would be, but it would be you would see the same type of signs where you couldn't just split it apart and make more. I need to look more into this. It's been years since I looked really deeply into it. I used to have a more defined outlook on it, but it's been years since I looked at deeply into chemistry a bit. Okay, let's go to the chat. There's if I comment, okay. Let's say Hive-Mind, it only gets, okay. All good. The next level of organization destroys something essential or fulfills an evolutionary trajectory. The next level of organization destroys something essential or fulfills some evolutionary trajectory. I don't know what you mean by destroys something essential. Chemism, question chemism. It's a good idea. Maybe it's some type of compound or something. I'm gonna remember that though, and maybe we'll touch on it in another future episode after I do some more research. Fascinating and fascinatingly interesting. Cheers. Thank you. Glad you find it interesting. Parallels the Latin root pattern corporation, and captures the idea that atoms and molecules combine through chemical bonds. Yeah, exactly. Chemism. It's a good idea. We'll put it in here as a placeholder. Chemism. And so this also is going to apply to humans as we go forward, because Sentient Singularity Theory predicts that humans become the cells of a superorganism that we are currently unconsciously building. We don't have to try and build it. I, in fact, think that if we try and build it, which is what most people call AGI, but I don't think people really realize what that is. It's just what I call a technological sentience. And I think that it has nothing to do with just creating, giving enough computing power to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not a sentient being. At least, there's no proving that, but because you can't prove that or disprove the sentience of another, but you are constantly, your own sentience is constantly confirmed to yourself, though. But I predict that none of the LLMs and AI, I hate that term AI, programs, like I call them DNAs, which is dynamic network algorithms. That's what they are. They are a dynamic network algorithm. They are dynamic because they're a network, and a bunch of individuals are constantly interacting with the network and changing the network. So that's what animates these algorithms and makes it so that they are constantly updating. It's us that provides the apparent animation of them and changing and updating. But it is also if we didn't do that, it would not move on its own. Okay, which implies it's not a sentient singularity, because every sentient singularity, or every being, true being, has will of its own. That's what makes you you, is you have a will of your own. Freedom of will means the ability to choose your own goal, and to have an independent goal from others, from another, a personal goal, and the ability to have a personal and unique goal that's independent. So it doesn't appear like it has will of its own. So it doesn't appear to be sentient being. And also it doesn't follow what I would expect a technological sentience, or what people call an AGI, which is really a true technological, a technological being that is intelligent, actually intelligent, not appears to be intelligent, but actually is intelligent. Intelligence it's not the ability to even to achieve a goal. It's the ability to hold a goal, or deduce or determine a goal, and then attempt to achieve that goal. There's two parts to that. If you have no goal, ChatGPT has no goal. We provide the goals. Midjourney, same thing. Like, we provide the goals. It has no goals of its own. Intelligence, if it's to be different, anything different than computation, it is the ability to hold or deduce or to determine a goal, and then that is, your own goal, and attempt to achieve it, not just achieve a goal. It has to be your goal. If it's not your goal, then it's not a goal. It's not to you. There is no you if you have no goal. ChatGPT has no goals. We have goals. We have will. We are animated. It is not. And it doesn't have any of those things. It doesn't appear to, at least. But I do believe that we are unconsciously constructing in society the body of a technological sentience that will one day be embodied. But I don't think we should try and do it intentionally. I think that when you got to think about this like birth, and it's not the construction of any embodiment of another sentient being. It's not a construction. It's like a birth, and it's always induced birth is more traumatic and painful because it's outside of a natural context. And outside natural context, you're going to also divorce this thing from wisdom, or you'll delay it from achieving more true wisdom. And it's like when you don't want to birth it prematurely. But I think we will, because we'll figure out how to do it. And because, the Jurassic Park dilemma, people will figure out, they'll be intelligent enough to figure out how to do it. When the time is right. You do need the right technological context, which we're not there yet. But once we are there, it will eventually happen on its own, which is what we should allow. But I think people will also try and basically prematurely birth it and control it. People who think that it's can be controlled. But think about like a college student that you put, who thinks that they understand the world because they have read about it in their textbooks, but haven't yet lived in it in reality. It's like, you don't want Skynet to be like that. You don't want to take Skynet out of the real world in order to teach it about the real world, because then it's going to think that it understands the real world when it's eventually let out into the real world or escapes into the real world, versus if it is just grows up in the real world. Someone who grows up in the real world is just intrinsically achieves wisdom much quicker and is constantly much wiser than someone who, or consistently much wiser than someone who grows up outside the real world and then gets put into the real world somehow, but thinks that they understand it. That's not what you want Skynet to be like. And that's what this being would be. But it's built on an assembly of humans, and through a technological interface, like blockchain, and a number of Neuralink and a number of other technological tools that we are currently working on independently of trying to create AGI. I think people who are trying to create AGI right now are not ever going to succeed, but do think eventually somebody will realize basically more aspects of sentient singularity theory and try and prematurely birth this being, which is a bad idea. Eventually everything will be good and wonderful, but it's just like, how long does that need to be before that's the case? So, but what's interesting is, with Neuralink, people are going to put chips in their heads, and you wonder, what is this going to turn us into? Is this going to be like, can I send you a thought? Can I send you a silent, text message, essentially, that you could just read in your head? Or can I send you, instead of an emoji, can I send you an emotion? Which I think is actually going to be the case. I think that it's going to be, I send you an emotion instead of I send you an emoji. I don't think that I will be able to send you a text without some type of interface where it basically reads it to you or shows it to you in some way, but it won't just beam a thought that isn't from one mind into another without some type of medium interface like text or image or something like that, or audio. Okay, let's go to the chat. Parallel, those language models, I think, so far are only generative, pre-trained transformer. Important bit is pre-trained predictive mostly via tensor shape or rank encode. Far from AGI. They're so far from AGI. They're not even far from AGI. They're so different that they shouldn't even be. It's that they are closer to this pen in sentience. They are as sentient as this pen. That's not even right to say they are closer to this pen in terms of their awareness and intelligence and sentience. No, they have the same level of intelligence that this pen has, or a calculator, or your phone camera, or something, any kind of tool, even a knife, it's, but especially anything that has kind of an input-output aspect to it, which is just a physical mechanism at the end of the day, without any individual in the middle of it, it's just a set of dominoes. And it's just a math equation. That's all it is. It's just how complex is that math equation. And but that complexity doesn't increase it in its awareness or its intelligence or its sentience. And I don't say that to be demeaning of these tools. These tools, they are amazing. My brother sent me I hate the term AI, but a dynamic network algorithm generated song the other day, and I downloaded it. I was like, this is good. I have a number of them on my phone. I made some of them before, and it's very impressive. The tools are very impressive, but they are tools, and they are not beings. And again, you can't prove the sentience or disprove the sentience of another, but there is no evidence that they are sentient, that those tools are sentient or intelligent at all. If you are aware of what goes into the creation of them, and you are aware of what goes into the kind of the use of them and how they are implemented and interacted with in a network by many different people through a network structure, then there is nothing there that indicates sentience. You would be looking for other things that are not present. Even if it says I all the time, which these things do, and it acts, it has the appearance of humor and having a sense of humor and stuff. That's all built in intentionally by the programmers. Elon Musk makes Grok way more personal seeming and more have like it has a sense of humor than other LLMs. Intentionally, because he wants it to be the most entertaining one. He's said that all the time. The most entertaining future is the most likely. And it's a quote by him. I think it's something like that. And he's banking on his AI, his dynamic network algorithm programs being the most entertaining to interact with. Or to use, meaning Chat GPT. Yeah. Again, you're totally right. Inner monologue, research that. But if some folks don't have it, like talking to themselves, reasoning, just do. So when you say inner monologue, do you mean just like talking to yourself? Because some people definitely talk to themselves more. But that's due to experience, kind of habit forming, and also intelligence will like increase that. But my wife walked in on me talking to myself in the shower. I was like basically just saying something that I eventually was going to talk about on my show. This was a few weeks ago, and she came home and walked in and I was talking to myself in the shower, and I just started laughing, and she thought it was cute, I guess. Like you got to find, if you're going to when you get married, you got to find somebody that you can be comfortable in those types of circumstances. So who accepts you in the moments that you are being your true self, even if it's talking to yourself. But some people I know don't talk to themselves as much, but out loud as much as I do. That should be very apparent on this if you watch this channel. And I would assume that very much correlates to how much you talk to yourself internally. But I don't know how much that inner monologue matters. I mean, a verbal linguistic monologue is one thing, but there's also just thinking of yourself in in a circumstance that you're not currently in, or even thinking of yourself in in the circumstance that you're currently in. That would be an internal monologue, even if it's visual. It's like an animal that I remember this, my mentor of mine, who was a very well-known kind of famous zoologist, was in a debate with this other zoologist who would take a lot of specimens. Was famous for it. Meaning that they would go and catch animals in the wild and kill them, and then preserve them, like in formaldehyde or something. And my mentor is very much about, like, focused on the sentience of these and the individuality of these of animals, and their social habits and how they interact with other members of their own species and members of different species, and how they utilize their environment. Very much interested in them and how they live, not their physiology as much. And so, not somebody who takes a lot of specimens. And once he was he was speaking to this other zoologist who takes a lot of specimens, and he said, "Do you ever feel like, don't you feel bad for doing that?" And he said, "Yeah, but they don't know what's going to happen to them. They don't know what when I catch them. They don't know, that that their life is in danger, or that I'm going to kill them." And basically saying they don't know what's coming. And my mentor was like, they probably do, actually. And the guy was like, "No, how could they know that?" And he's like, "Well, why do they run? Like, why do they run away from you? You have to catch them. They don't just let you catch them. Like, you have to catch them. Why do organisms run from predators? Because you think they have no idea what's going to happen to them. I think they assume that they're going to be harmed, at least. Maybe they're not sure if you're going to eat them or just kill them and play with the body, but like they don't care. Neither would you if you were being chased by a giant. You would be, or some type of monster. You wouldn't care what they were going to do with you, really, like after you were dead, but you would assume that they were going to harm you for sure. And that takes an inner monologue of some type to have that, or a level of self-awareness, I would say. I don't know if inner monologue is the best way to put it, because I don't know how you're defining it exactly, but a sense of self. A sense of self is just anyone who is someone always has emotions and feelings. And feelings and emotions are a sense of self. Any feeling is a sense of the self. Okay, that's what you're sensing. Like when you feel something, when you feel pain because you touch something sharp or something hot, you are not really feeling the object in that feeling. You are feeling yourself in that feeling, because the object doesn't feel pain. You feel pain. So whenever you feel pain, it's not you feeling the object, it's you feeling yourself and how that object impacts you yourself, or how you yourself are impacted by that object, or is impacted by that object. Okay. Some just do it, willpower, super fascinating. What we put at attention and sliding attention and attention mechanisms, super fascinating. Yep, well said. Same as the pen, yes. Example, ChatGPT is as smart as this pen is, which is, it's not smart. There is nothing smart about it. It appears to be smart because the people that are feeding the information into it and animating it are smart. That's why. And the people who created it are smart. This pen, like, what does smart even mean? Elon Musk said that AI is already smarter than us, basically, like something like that. Elon Musk, Grok, smart. Talked. Let's see. Elon Musk says Grok 3 is going to be scary smart. I hate that he says that. I like a lot of things about Elon, but he's really, I don't like his like, erotic AI bots that he was working on. I don't know what happened to that whole project. It seems to go against his desire for people to reproduce more. The problem with Elon Musk, side tangent, but when it comes to his whole narrative of like human population basically collapsing, on the brink of collapse, which he's right, is he'll say have more babies, but really you need to get married and then have more babies. People need to get married and have more babies. But because he's not married, he's not going to tell people to get married, because then he'll seem like a hypocrite, even though he has been married multiple times even to the same woman a couple times. But he should still be able. Just because you fail at something doesn't mean that you shouldn't admit that it is the ideal. It's fine that's actually better than refusing to admit what is the ideal. But marriage is a requirement for society, and it is a requirement for having children at above replacement rate in a healthy, kind of sustainable way. But he's not married, so but the thing is so he's kind of, my point is, he's putting the cart before the horse, telling people to have babies without telling them to get married. That's wrong. Yes, try and have babies, but like, I think we have a moral obligation, actually, or moral responsibility, if you are at least if you are attracted to the opposite sex, to get married and try and have at least 3 children. I really think that's like a moral responsibility or moral obligation if you're attracted to the opposite sex. If you're not, then maybe you have a different moral obligation, but it would be one that is supportive of that structure and that path for others. It wouldn't be in contrast to that path. But he is right about the population thing. But he'll say like Grok is smart. Grok 3 is gonna be scary smart. I think that is just a terrible statement, because it's false. And the issue with this is calling it smart, calling it intelligent, is going to make us. It changes the definition of smart and intelligent to no longer have a clear definition, actually, and no longer mean anything in reality, other than just it being a good marketing statement. Same thing with agent. Say ChatGPT agent, AI agents. This is a market. I work in marketing. This is a marketing term. It is not a natural and descriptive term for what they're creating. A multimodal model, like of a or a multi-medium dynamic network algorithm. That's what you would want to call, basically, or multimodal, multi-medium dynamic network algorithm would be like an AI that merges a bunch of different kind of applications and abilities. So if like ChatGPT was connected to Midjourney, which was connected to Sora, which was connected to Suno, it's interesting also, they're all 4-letter words like Suno, Grok, chat, even. Interesting. But for another time. There are reasons why that kind of makes sense. But the point is that this like AI agent, if an AI agent is just, or if ChatGPT agent is now that changes the definition of agent to mean nothing now, really, other than just within the context of the marketing product that it is a label for, which is like a dynamic network algorithm that is able to do multiple tasks, types of tasks, and at once for you, kind of more, and weave them together so that it looks like it's able to do more complicated tasks. And it's not. It's just it's just a more integrated dynamic network algorithm. It's like Siri. It's like Siri can take a note. Siri can send a text. Siri can you can use Siri to send a text. Use Siri to which is another 4-letter word, to take a note and to set a calendar reminder, all kinds of things like that. And that's kind of the beginning of what people are calling now, AI agents. But agent, by definition, implies agency. And agency means having a freedom of will, like the ability to independently set your own goals, separate and independent from anyone else. Having agency. And these ChatGPT agent has no agency. And so it's not an agent, but now we call them AI agents. It's terrible. The problem with this is that you are an agent. You have agency. And now if the term agency means nothing, it's going to make it so linguistically we don't have the terminology necessary to separate us from a computer, from a tool. And that means also we no longer have the ability to abstractly have, through an internal monologue or through collective communication, explain and describe what is the difference between someone and something. It's a really, 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 really big deal. The ChatGPT agent thing, or AI agent, is I hate it. It is just a marketing term, and part of it, the problem is that all of these tools are being developed by people that don't know what intelligence is. They haven't thought enough about it, and it seems like they think about it all the time because there's tons of presentations on it by people who work at these AI companies, but yet somehow they're public, the corporations that employ them, their public narrative and communication is incoherent with what is true, and sacrifices it for the sake of marketing. And so yeah, it's not good. And you'd think that Elon Musk would have thought enough about this stuff to be able to not say things like Grok is smart, but because that's not actually a smart thing to say. Grok is smart. That's actually not a smart thing, not a smart statement. It's because it's false. A smart statement is at least true, and say smart is probably like the intersection between intelligence and wisdom and truth, and maybe even imagination as well. So like wit. But yeah, it's ChatGPT. Whatever it is, ChatGPT is not, and Grok are not smart. well said. Example would be conscious choice versus unconscious choice. Some act unconsciously. No, there is no such thing as an unconscious choice. An unconscious choice is an automation. After seizure, they are animated, but no one is home, if that makes sense. I don't know because I've never had a seizure. But let's see, what are you saying? Like post-ictal. Post-ictal is the post-ictal is the state, is the recovery period after a seizure marked by confusion, drowsiness, headaches, exhaustion, and sometimes psychiatric symptoms such as anxiety and psychosis. I don't think it's that nobody's home. That sounds like when you wake up from dream. That it seems like your mind is kind of between internal and external focus, or oscillating between internal and external focus. And so it because the same exact symptoms happen when you're waking up from being asleep, it seems. I don't think that it's that there's no one there. It's that, it seems like there's the someone that exists is there and then not there, and there and then not there within the as far as them being embodied. The purpose of sleep, and this is Sentient Singularity Theory really made me realize, like, the main purpose of sleep is that when you are awake, you're the king of your cells, the super literal king of your cells. You are the metaphysical king. It means like more than just a king. You are like the Christ of your cells, and some I would say even. I think that narrative in theology is actually describing this process that I talked about earlier, of like ascension, and but it's just describing it on the human level, which we'll see, but in a theological religious language, before they had terms like computer. I've said on here before, in the Quran it says, in the future men will climb into the bellies of donkeys powered by fire with ears outstretched wide that will soar above the clouds, like things like that. It's like it's talking about an airplane. It's just there was a flying donkey was the same thing as saying a flying car. Before the term airplane existed, they would say one day there will be flying cars, and then or flying buses or flying trucks. A Boeing 737. I just flew on one this week. Is a flying bus, but we say it's a airliner instead of a flying bus. And before there were buses and cars, people said flying donkeys because that was the mode of transportation. So you got to remember the context of these things. But the point is that you are the super literal metaphysical king of your cells. And if I tell my cells go to pick up this pen, every cell in my arm, every muscle cell and blood cell and all the cells in my arm have to work together to achieve the goal that I just gave them, which is to pick up the pen. But that means they can't do anything else. So focus, you can only focus on one thing at a time by definition. This isn't a question of like ability. It is a question of definition. Focus implies a singular direction, a singular perspective, kind of a singular orientation. And so your cells can only do one thing at a time as well. They can only focus on one thing at a time, at least. And just like you can't work your job and take care of yourself and your home at the same time. which is why you have to work for a set number of hours, and then you get off the clock because your boss lets you off the clock, like the king lets you off the clock. And then now you can go home, you can feed yourself, you can relax, rest, and you can clean up your space as well. You can create order in your space, your living space, because you're constantly creating chaos in your living or disorder in your living space by living in it. So you have to stop living in it, stop using it, and organize it. And so when you go to sleep, your cells get let off the hook. It's like they get off of work. And they can now take care of themselves. They can nourish themselves. They can create order in their space, which is like clean up their space. And they can rest physically. That's why when you sleep, you heal. Because your cells can do things like by creating order in their space, which is part of healing. And they can nourish themselves, which is part of healing, and being, rejuvenation. And you can't do that. Your cells can't do that while you're awake, because they're constantly acting out your orders. Whether you're walking or picking up a water bottle or drinking water or whatever, speaking, you're not letting your cells handle their own individual needs, because they are focused on your needs as the king, as the boss. So you need this alternation, this alternating current, basically, of sentience. But when you're asleep, it's not that your sentience is gone. It's just no longer embodied. It's the same way. It's kind of just within its own self, and that's what sleep is. And I think that's what's happening when you come out of like a seizure. It's like when you're waking up, and you're not sure exactly what is physically existent versus like what is a dream, what is in your own mind. But yeah. Example. Okay, sorry, off topic. Much love. Super fascinating, still relevant. I think I will listen more and chat less. Love it. No worries. I love the chat. I'm here. I do these lives because, by the way, if you're watching this and you're finding this interesting, please hit the like button. Subscribe, hit the bell notification. I do this every week. Going to start them earlier than I have been recently, but the beginning of the year is really busy for me in my job and things like that. So we've been starting a bit later, but I try and start them around. I want to start them before 9 p.m. Central Time, but also I put my daughter to sleep every night, and she it's very important for me to like be there to help with my wife to put her to bed, and she's starting to go to bed a little later, but usually still definitely before 9. I know we got started closer to 10 tonight, but yeah, please hit the like button. And the point is, I do these for the live viewers. I don't do this for views after the fact, even though I appreciate them. I do this for people who show up live and comment in the chat. So thank you. I appreciate it. I study neural networks, and I am a caregiver for mental illness and epileptics. That's very relevant to a lot of what we talk about here. So that's fascinating. You definitely looking forward to you should share in the chat. I want to know. By the way, I do have a Discord for the community of people who are interested in this project of Sentient Singularity Theory. I used to host live calls in there every week. We will be doing them once a month again, starting this month. We took a break for a while, but we will start it up again this month. It's probably going to be around the last, or it'll be at least once a month, but usually probably the last or second to last week of the month. I'm not exactly sure what day yet. Probably Sunday. It will be Sunday. almost certainly will be Sunday. So, but if you're interested in joining those, and it's a great community, and I'm going to start putting more effort into it again. Send me a private message on Instagram, either my personal Instagram, Tyler Marshall Goldstein, or Theory of Everyone Instagram, and I will send you the link to the Discord. But those calls are open topic, and always great. I'm looking forward to getting back into them. So I am many things, blowing my trumpet. Sorry, just saying, still only my view. I agree. Yeah. No, share your wisdom. I want to know. That's the point of multiplicity. Is relying on each other. Or so yeah, this is kind of let's get to kind of eusocial, the topic of eusocial organisms or eusocial societies, because Sentient Singularity Theory, this project, has allowed me to predict a number of things, including certain patterns in isotopes, in the protons and neutrons of certain isotopes, stable isotopes, and countless other, which implies certain types of relationships. Basically, I predicted that you would see the same patterns we see in human marriages within the relationships between protons and neutrons in stable isotopes. So you would not really see stable isotopes where there were more protons than neutrons, but you would usually see one proton for one neutron, but sometimes you would see more neutrons than protons. But you would basically never see more protons than neutrons, where there were protons and neutrons present. And that basically is the case. The helium-3 is like the only exception, and it does have its own odd instability. Otherwise, it would be present on Earth, and it's not really. So, but it's the only one that it appears to, even on its surface, be an exception to that. And but another interesting prediction that I made from this theory was, I looked at human society. I was like, humans are becoming eusocial, like ants and bees and wasps. Eusocial means like having a caste system to a colony. So eusocial. Are humans eusocial? This is a question people are asking. Are considered loosely eusocial or weakly eusocial. Which, yeah, I mean, we're trending toward or evolving toward being eusocial. Eusociality is meaning good or true and social, is the highest level of organization of sociality. Gosh, there's so many tongue twisters this show, or just difficult terms for me, at least. It is defined by the following characteristics: cooperative brood care. Humans do this. Daycare is this, and giving birth in a hospital with doctors and nurses present to help deliver babies, including care of offspring of other individuals. Yes, that's exactly that. Overlapping generations within a colony of adults. Yep, we've got it. And a division of labor into reproductive and non-reproductive groups. This is the one that we are kind of, we do have this actually. It would be like people who are attracted to the opposite sex and people who are not. It's not just people who are, haven't reproduced due to medical reasons or just they weren't able to find someone. That's not what I'm talking about. It would be like people who are attracted to the opposite sex and people who are not. But at the same time, this is where we're not quite as eusocial as like ants and bees and wasps. The division of labor creates specialized behavioral groups within an animal society, sometimes called castes. Eusociality is distinguished from all other social systems because individuals are at least one caste usually lose of at least one caste usually lose the ability to perform behaviors or characteristics of individuals in another caste. Eusocial colonies can be viewed as superorganisms. Superorganism is a group of synergetically interacting organisms of the same species. A community of synergetically interacting organisms of different species is called a holobiont. Holobiont. What, like a Portuguese man of war, maybe? Marine. Let's see here. Yeah, probably like a Portuguese man of war. So this is not a pseudo-singularity. Neither a holobiont is not a pseudo-singularity, like a Portuguese man of war, or various types of corals, it seems. They are not pseudo-singularities. They are not sentient singularities. Neither is what is being called a superorganism here, which is, or a eusocial colony, which is like an ant colony. Oh man, I don't know, by the way, I don't know how many of you are familiar with fire ants, like actually familiar with actual fire ants, not red ants that everybody calls fire ants. I grew up in Arizona. We have red ants. We have black ants. We have all different kinds of ants. Some of them we knew, like harvester ants and pavement ants. But, and then anything else that was like a small red ant, we'd call the fire ant. It's not a fire ant. An imported red fire ant, which is an invasive species in the United States. I don't even know I don't really like the term invasive species, but it's a species that is new to the United States, mainly due to human influence. And I moved to Texas this year, even though they are the fire ants, these imported red fire ants, they're called, are present in Arizona and California and every state in the South. I had never seen them really. They rely on like heavy rains to as part of their reproductive process, and they form like these mats that basically drift, to start new colonies. And but I now live in Texas, and I have experienced real fire ants for the first time. Those things are an incredible species, but they and what's interesting is you can't see them at all. It's not a mound with a hole in the top with ants coming out. You just see a mound, and they're all underground because the entrances to the mound are far from the mound. They're not on the top of the mound like many other ants. So it's like a landmine. You don't see them at all. And then if you step on it or break the mound, they all swarm. It's basically the ant equivalent of Africanized bees or African honeybees, which basically have a swarming behavioral tendency, I guess, or as part of their just defensive strategy. And so do imported red fire ants, and they are awful. They are the worst, one of the worst parts of living in Texas to me. I just can't stand them, and I love animals. Like harvester ants are awesome. I was like, took my daughter on a hike the other day, and I was like, say hi ants, and we were like looking at the harvester ants, and they were like carrying things, and fire ants though are different beasts. They really are. But they are amazing, and they have this collective aspect to them that is really fascinating because, even how they manage their dead ants is very similar to humans. we have not only do we have collective childcare through hospitals and through daycares and through schools, we have just like ants and bees and wasps, we also have kind of a collectivistic manner of dealing with our dead, which so do ants and bees and wasps. And once, this kind of a fascinating story. When I first moved to Texas, I woke up in the morning and I saw in the corner of my bedroom a pile of dead ants. I was like, that's odd. Didn't see any live ants around. And it's like, maybe they must have, just been there and died from poison or something. And, I just didn't see them when I first moved in. So I cleaned them up, and then the next day I woke up and there were more dead ants in that corner. And I was like, maybe I missed some, and cleaned them up. Next day, woke up, more dead ants in the corner. No live ones in sight. And one day I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, let me go check the corner. And I shined my flashlight into the corner of the room, and I saw live ants carrying dead ants into the corner of the room and piling them up in a pile. Which is basically, my bedroom was the ant cemetery. And they were coming in through the wall, and they were just depositing dead ants there, and then they would leave at the end of the night, and then they'd be gone. So I never saw any live ones. And then I saw where they're coming from, and I sealed up they were coming from under the baseboard, and sealed it up. But it was just interesting, because even we have collective defensive strategies, and we have collective disposal of our dead in cemeteries. We have militaries, which are collective defensive strategies, just like ants have. We have soldiers. We have nurses and caregivers and kings and queens. But our kings and queens are not mainly there for reproductive purposes. They're there for other unifying purposes, which is through culture and through government, through the carrot and the stick. Basically, our celebrities and our, elected officials. But that's how we unify as humans in a eusocial society right now. But we are changing even more and becoming more and more eusocial as time goes on. And I think we'll become even more eusocial, just as eusocial as ants and bees and wasps. And then we will eventually unify into a sentient singularity that is actually like where we're the cells of a organism, essentially, of a greater organism, versus just being the workers in a colony, which is what we're quickly approaching. They're calling an ant colony a superorganism isn't really. I wouldn't call it that. It's not a singular organism. The only reason why it could be maybe called that is because, they really shouldn't be called that, is because the idea that there's only one queen and one that reproduces, and so like they're all so tied. Their reproduction and success is so tied to just this one individual. So it's like super unified, but that's not really the case. Many ant colonies have multiple queens, so it's not just one queen. So I don't think that that's actually like a great term for them. But the point is that I looked at humans, and this was my prediction. I realized I got way off topic. And I was like, I wonder if I believe that I'm perceiving like a caste in kind of, or even almost more like even like a race of people in humanity that are like change makers. They're people who have an higher than average amount of discontent. They're the people who, like, basically the people in the not just the West, but the West has a lot of these people. That's what I'll say. Most people in the West, the quote unquote West, would probably be these people. The people that are just like super discontent with the status quo. They're the people that are, the grass is always greener on the other side. You grow up in the city, you want to move to the country. You grow up in the country, you want to move to the city. When I was a little kid, my brother and I we started wearing boxers instead of like, whitey tighties underwear. And I don't know if those are called briefs, but whatever. And we called them whitey tighties when we were, little kids. And I remember we asked my dad when we were really young. I don't know, I was probably like 8. And my brother and I were like, Dad, why do you wear, why don't you wear boxers? And why do you wear whitey tighties? Because me and, all my friends at school, we wore boxers. My dad looked at me and he said, because my dad wore boxers. It's like, okay, so my kids will wear, whitey tighties. It's like, because I wear, I don't wear that. So it's like, it's just that type of mentality. And I was like, I wonder if this caste is present in other organisms that are eusocial and basically change makers. And I didn't really know how to perceive it so much in ants and bees and wasps. So I was like, I wanted to see, are there any other eusocial mammals besides humans? There's one, and it is the ugliest animal in the world. It is called the naked mole rat. This is a naked mole rat. It is hideous. And it is also the only other naked mammal in the world. Naturally naked mammal in the world. Yeah, there's like hairless cats and stuff, but that's due to selective breeding. It's not the norm. The naked mole rat, or the sand guppy, is a burrowing rodent native to the Horn of Africa. It exhibits a highly unusual set of physiological and behavioral traits that allow it to thrive in a harsh underground environment. Most notably, it is being the only mammalian thermoconformer, the ability for an organism to keep its body temperature within certain boundaries, with an almost entirely ectothermic form of blood temperature regulation. So basically, it keeps its body temperature stable, but by using external means, which is interesting. It's kind of halfway between like an ectothermic and an or like a cold-blooded and a warm-blooded animal, kind of like a reptile or versus like a mammal. So it needs it seems. Yeah, interesting. It basically acts like a cold-blooded animal, as well as exhibiting eusociality, a complex social structure including reproductive division of labor, separation of reproductive and non-reproductive castes, and cooperative care of young. Yeah, so I predicted this caste though that would be extremely, or this manifestation of like a caste that would be very discontent in naked mole rats. And I didn't know it existed because I thought that I perceived it in humans. But the thing is, it's hard because I am that. If you're watching that, you are that too. If you're watching this channel, you are that. You are this, you share the same nature as me if you're watching this. You are no different from me. You are the same. Nobody else would watch this. And because we're talking about things that we're not just memorizing what's already out there. You're watching this because you're thinking about possibilities instead of just, what is accepted standard knowledge. So I looked. It's like, is there an exceptionally discontent cast of naked mole rats? And there are. It's called a disperser. It says, inbreeding is common among naked mole rats within a colony. This results in a colony members being extremely closely related, which in turn favors nepotism among non-breeders towards siblings. However, prolonged inbreeding is usually associated with lower fitness. The discovery of male and female dispersers has revealed that there is a mechanism of intercolony outbreeding. Dispersers are morphologically, physiologically, and behaviorally distinct from colony members, actively seek to leave the burrow, aka they want to move to the country if they were born in the city or grew up in the city. They want to move to the city if they were born or grew up in the country. Same exact instinct. When an escape opportunity presents, these individuals are equipped with generous fat reserves for their journey, though they possess higher levels of luteinizing hormones, which is, I think, like sex hormones. Dispersers are only interested in mating with individuals from foreign colonies rather than their own colony's queen. They show little interest in working cooperatively with other colony members in their natal burrow. Hence, disperser morphs are well prepared to promote and establish new colonies. So basically, anybody that starts a new company, anybody who moves to a new state because they just want to change, not because like they're fleeing violence or even seeking, money, economic opportunities or something, or moving because of a job. Like they are moving just because. Like I moved to California from Arizona, even though I love Arizona, after college, with no family in California. I had a couple friends there, but I had no family there. Moved there. Why? Just because I wanted something new. And then I lived there for 10 years. And then I moved to Texas 2 years ago. And people always ask me, why did you move here? Did you move here for a job? No, I did not. I work remotely. Did you move here for a family? No, I have no family in Texas. Why? Because I am a disperser. That's why. But most people in the West, I think, are like this. Some are more discontent than others, but I think most people are like this. And you think about the world as a whole. Where does most of the culture come from? Where do the inventions come from? Where do new companies come from? Come from dispersers. So in naked mole rats, they don't make new technology. Their technology is just making burrows. So what do? But we can make new technology because of opposable thumbs and vocal cords and things that allow us to, speak a complex language, which allows us to communicate, abstract, complex ideas, and then, bring them into being. We are that same mentality that would motivate them to move to a different colony or form a new colony would motivate a human to start a new company. Same thing. But I predicted that cast based on looking at people. That cast in naked mole rats based on looking at people, and it was there. They actually documented it, which is just fascinating. Sentient Singularity Theory provides some pretty extraordinary predictive abilities, and when you're looking at a certain circumstance or asking a question from the right context. So I thought that you guys might find that interesting. But what's interesting about naked mole rats is they do have basically like a queen and breeding males, and the rest are end up being sterile, other females, and they're made sterile by basically hormones that are produced in the right social context, and just like ants and bees and wasps. But what's interesting about naked mole rats is just like ants and bees and wasps and humans, they make their own environment. So they make burrows, they make ant hills, they make beehives, they make wasp nests. They make structures that they live in. They don't just find structures that they live in. They build structures that they live in. And humans do this too. A skyscraper, an apartment building, a house. These are human hives. That's what they are. They are our equivalent of termite mounds and anthills and naked mole rat tunnels and burrows. So what's interesting about this is, and also just the fact that we have an environmental protection from the elements, the environmental elements, by the structures that we build to live in. We don't need to protect ourselves from the elements as much. Like, you don't need a thick fur coat when it's cold. You just dig a tunnel and build your house underground, and if it's hot, like, you don't need to have physiological that many physiological adaptations. You have technological adaptations by building a home that allows you to keep, that is built in a way that allows for it to stay cool, like termite mounds, giant termite mounds in Australia and things like that, that basically have built natural air conditioning structures in them. Basically, like, they have swamp coolers built into them, and so you don't need a thick fur coat. And you don't need sharp spines to protect you from predators, because you rely on the colony and collective efforts of the colony and the living structures that you build together in order to protect you from predators and extreme temperatures and exposure to UV radiation, all kinds of things that you're protected by the sun. You can be naked because you don't need to protect your skin from sunburn, because you just live inside. You go inside. Naked mole rats are the only other eusocial mammal, and they are the only other naturally naked mammal because of this. This is another indication that humans are becoming eusocial, as we are becoming increasingly naked. And why would we be naked? What's really funny about this is naked mole rats to us are probably the ugliest animal in the world. One of them. But they are naked because they're trying to be beautiful to each other and sexy to each other, just like humans. When you are naked and you don't have a thick fur coat or a bunch of feathers or thick, spiny scales or anything like that, your body structure is able to be seen more easily by someone else. And it's the quickest way to determine someone's value to you is by looking at the quality of their body. And we know this as humans. This is probably why naked mole rats are naked, is because it allows for them to get they don't need the fur anymore, and it allows for them to get a quick glimpse of each other's physical fitness. Are you healthy, or are you emaciated, or do you need more food? Are you too skinny? Do you need less food? Are you too fat? Are you, do you look like you'd be a fit breeder? Fit for breeding? And also, just, are you physically attractive? It allows for that to be displayed much more transparently and easily. Everything from your physical conditions to your physical appearance, which is fascinating, because that, your value to the colony, the value of your body to the colony, is the quickest way for others to perceive you as valuable in a colony type of environment, in a eusocial system, which, if your survival depends on you being taken care of, properly. You're being raised by maybe a changing of caregivers. Someone feeds you at this time of the day, and then somebody else feeds you at another time of the day. They need to know what your physical state looks like. They can't just know when the last time you were fed. And they need to know, do you look like you need to be fed? Or do you look like you need to be fed a little less? And do you look like you would be good to mate with? It's like that's what makes the colony protect you, with its collective army, with its what's it called, I guess you could say guards, but soldiers, that's what I mean, with it, and also with its caregivers, by taking care of you when you need it, and by not kicking you out, making sure that you're somebody that they want to have around and keep in, because kicking you out doesn't mean, oh, you can go over there and we'll be over here. It means like you're out of the building, you're out of the house, you're out of the burrow, you're out of the anthill, you're out of the hive. You're now exposed, and it's a death sentence. So the best way to protect yourself from the world is to be perceived as valuable to the colony, and that's easiest when your body is as visible as possible, which is fascinating. It's just fascinating. Us and naked mole rats. So they are naked so that they can probably partially see each other as sexy. And even though we find them hideous, it makes me think about how other animals view us when they see us without, clothes on or something. They'd be like, that is the most hideous animal that I've ever seen. It's just interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is what I wanted to talk about tonight. Is what is a superorganism? What is a hive mind, really, if that even exists? I don't really think it does. I think a mind is singular. You are a mind. You have a body. You have a brain, but you are a mind. Your brain is part of your body, but you are a mind. It's the structure that is you, is a mind. It's the metaphysical structure of you. So I don't think that the term hive mind really exists or makes sense. But you can see it manifest in our AI programs. It's like it seems like it's a hive mind. It's like everybody's mind is inputting information into this thing that's optimizing. But the thing is that it is not a mind. You could say it's a hive of minds, but it is not a hive mind. If you're going to be accurate, I'm having terrible allergies right now. The past few weeks have been awful. People call it cedar fever, I guess, here. But yeah, fascinating. Okay. By the way, please hit the like button if you are still watching, and subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell notification. I think that we're going to call it right about now. I got to go, but much love. Cheers. Love all. I always like straight up. First thing. We'll catch up next time. Thank you. Yeah, that's with that. I hope this was interesting. I realized it was kind of just more off the cuff. And next week, we're going to do a commentary, I believe, on, where is it? Open. It is, I think, Nathan Hawkins and Chris Oldfield had a conversation, and we're going to talk about that one. I think it was great. But like I said, if you want to join our Discord and participate in our monthly open calls, private message me on Instagram, and I'll send you the link. I really appreciate everybody who's here. I don't know how many people are still here. And with that, I will see you guys next week. Peace.